Welcome to the program once again, everybody. This week we are talking about the movie that taught everyone that there are certain rules to surviving a horror movie. You're going to love this fucking episode. It's going to be a scream, baby. My name is Dusty Lane.
I'm Nick Cummins.
And then I'm Jason Mitchell.
And we are the Cinebytes.
Hello?
I came for you. We have such sights to show you.
It was an excellent day for an exorcism.
I said, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in.
I want to play a game.
What's the boogeyman?
As a matter of fact, it was. This is God.
We all go a little mad sometimes. Haven't you?
But sometimes that is better.
And we're back once again, everybody. I want to start this episode by asking, what's your favorite scary movie?
Well, obviously, Wes's must have been Halloween.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Oh my god, there are so many
number.
fucking Halloween references in this movie. It's disgusting.
I mean, like the tracking shots. I mean, the movie being on for the entire third act in the background.
There are also certain stings when like Ghostface appears, and it's like that, like the music sting.
When he pops up behind Randy while
especially.
he's watching the TV.
That's the most pronounced. It does happen a couple
Literally,
of times.
yeah.
Yeah, man. But no, for real. Like, what are your favorite scary movies? Let's start there.
I feel like I'm easy. I'm open and closed. Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Okay,
by
that's
far.
what I thought. I just wanted it to be on the record.
Right.
Okay.
By far.
That's a solid one.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always go back to Halloween. We just joked about it that it's Wes's, but I mean, that was kind of the thing. It was Halloween and the It reboots that got me back into horror movies. So we'll throw those there.
I have to be honest, this was a shitty and selfish question for me to ask because I always tell people every time they ask me, like, what's your favorite fucking anything, I can't give them an answer because I don't think it's fair to, you know?
It's a revolving door. I mean, it changes all the time. Like,
not only is it a revolving door, but like I like so many different things for so many different reasons. Like bands, for instance, like I don't listen to fucking Pink Floyd for the same reasons I listen to Mark Broussard or fucking Wolfpack or Dr. Dre. You know what I mean? Like I love them all.
Different moods for different things, man.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. So growing up, I know I've mentioned this before, like if someone had asked me when I was a kid what my favorite scary movie was, it would have been The Exorcist. It was one of the earliest ones I saw. It was the one that actually scared me. And I saw it when I was 7 at like 2:30 with no lights on around. And it fucking obviously screwed me up.
Yeah. That was Nightmare on Elm Street for me. So,
but also I do have a deep love of slashers, and Michael is my dude when it comes to slashers. So Halloween's up there too, for sure. I don't know. I always want to give like a short list of honorable mentions rather than a cut and dry favorite.
Right.
You know?
I got a very unpopular slasher favorite.
Okay.
And you're going to hate it immediately. I know we've talked about this before.
It's all right.
Friday the 13th, Part 8 is one of my favorite Friday the 13th.
I'm not really mad at that. If you had just said Friday the 13th and ended it there, we probably would have had a little bit of an issue because here's the thing, dude. That movie, obviously it's classic, it's iconic, it spawned another franchise, but it's just a carbon copy of Halloween.
Yep.
But a lot more poorly shot, a lot more boring. The whodunit aspect of Pamela being the killer, spoilers, everybody, sorry, is cool, sure, but that's really all that movie has going for it. And Kevin Bacon being sexy.
I was about to say, man, there's a couple good kills, but yeah, in general, that movie is definitely...
It's part 1 with the like the hedge trimmers through the bed, right?
I think
it's an arrow.
It's an arrow, like from the archery.
He pushes, or she rather, with her man hands though, pushes it up through Kevin Bacon's neck. Yeah, and that was one of the ones they always talk about. Like, oh yeah, the rig we set up fucked up, so Tom Savini had to just like blow blood through the fucking tube and stuff with his
Right.
mouth, whatever. We are not here to talk about Friday the 13th. We are, in fact, here to talk about one of the biggest fucking bangers of all time. Holy hell. I can't believe we're covering this early, or we're covering this movie this early, but here's the thing. In all reality, we just started this podcast, right? And I hear so often that podcasts generally don't last past a year. And I don't want that to happen, but in the event that it does, I want to cover the movies I want to cover.
Absolutely.
And we might be clearing out a bunch of the heavy hitters early, but at the same time, who knows if we're going to get the chance to 6 months, a year down the road, whatever. So this is something that I feel like if we're doing this, this is something we should put our attention on.
It's so relevant with all of the new movies coming up and all the talks about Scream and stuff that if we don't start covering it at some point, we don't want to do them all in a row.
Sure.
We got to cover Scream so that way we can talk about Scream 7 when it happens.
Sure.
And we've had some niche picks like here and there. So I feel like covering a staple every few episodes is a good deal to get into.
I feel like we've gotten a lot of staples though. Like our list so far has been pretty fucking heavy, dude. Hellraiser,
Exorcist,
Paranormal Activity,
Paranormal.
Exorcist. We got fucking I don't even know. Like whatever the rest of our fucking episode list is up to this point. Like we've been banging out some biggins. But that's okay. Because we'll eventually get around to the bullshit, and I do want a nice mix.
Well, and hopefully, we can start covering. We get big enough, we can start covering new releases as they come out, and you won't have to wait a year to hear a Talk to Me episode. You'll
maybe at some point we can, get a Patreon going or something like that, and we can offer like movies that have freshly come out. We'll just do a reaction review. Basically, and just put that on a tier for Patreon, something like that. I don't know. We're just in our little tiny itty bitty baby, 6 pound, 7 ounce podcast days.
6 pound, 7 ounce Cinebyte Podcast.
I feel like we need to cover a lot of these staples too. If there's people listening in and people that are new to horror, they need to make sure that they see these, and the people that have experience will want to know our take on these too. So
not only that, but us talking about movies as passionately as I hope we do, maybe that'll inspire somebody else to jump in and do the same.
Hell yeah, man.
Like I said, I legitimately, I know everything is subjective. I fucking get it. But I feel like horror is pound for pound the best fucking genre you can get because it does everything. So, whatever. Enough gushing about horror for the moment. Let's get back to Scream. Obviously, Wes Craven is the director of this movie. The writer, however, is Kevin Williamson. This movie was released in 96 with an R rating, and it's 111 minutes. Studio was Woods Entertainment, and the distributor was Dimension Films, of course. Our setting is Woodsboro, California, which is a fictional town. And the plot is basically, like, there are a lot of nuances to this plot, but it basically just comes down to Ghostface is fucking terrorizing Woodsboro at the end.
right, yeah. There's too much to really list to have a straightforward plot, especially with everything you learn across the movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of details that just pop up, and you're like, oh, there's another one. There's another one.
And Hannah's probably going to be pissed that we were covering this movie without her here, but that's we'll fucking maybe do something about that one day. That's my legacy that I leave to her. Let's talk about the cast for a minute, because holy fucking shit,
Loaded.
This is one of the most stacked casts fucking ever.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't really know how popular everybody was before this.
Yeah, that's a good point, but retrospectively, we see damn near everybody had a good to decent career at the very least.
Yeah.
Right.
Like fucking Nev Campbell was in a ton. Matthew Lillard has since been in a ton. Courtney Cox was on fucking Friends, and she's been in a bunch of shit. David Arquette. Drew fucking Barrymore. Like,
right.
God damn. This
huge.
movie just doesn't quit.
Mm-hmm.
So our main character obviously is Nev Campbell as Sidney Prescott. we do have a little nod, the first nod of many, to Halloween, because holy shit are there so many fucking Halloween references in this movie. It's insane. Billy Loomis is played by Skeet Ulrich. Now, okay, I paused there for a second because I needed to make sure I was saying that right. I met him at Horror Hound in Indianapolis last year, and I made sure to ask the question how he pronounces it, because I can't tell you how many times I've heard Ulrich and Ulrich fucking, interchangeably. But my opinion about names is you should fucking ask the person whose name it is how they say it.
Yep.
Agreed.
It's a nice call asking him about that.
Yeah, rather than butchering someone's fucking shit, like, I don't know, just be respectful.
What was the verdict? Ulrich?
He says Ulrich. He says his, I think maybe brother or brother-in-law or something like that, always says Ulrich, but Skeet always says Ulrich. So, Skeet Ulrich. As Billy Loomis, which of course is not only a nod to Halloween, but also a nod to Psycho. Is it also Sam Loomis?
I don't
That's
know.
the character that's like, is it Marion's like boyfriend?
Ooh,
That like the movie opens on?
I don't remember.
I know the name Loomis is in the movie Psycho.
Because I've heard Carpenter talk about. Well, I wanted to throw the nod to Psycho, so yeah, he specifically said that.
Well, you would think it was fucking Halloween because obviously Dr. Loomis and I lost count of how many fucking specifically Halloween references there is in this movie.
So you're totally right. Sam Loomis was the divorced owner of Sam Loomis Hardware in Fairvale. He was the boyfriend of Marion Crane and later the husband of her sister Lila, with whom he had a daughter, Mary Loomis.
Yep. So super reference heavy. This was one of Wes Craven's absolute masterpieces. And I think that we kind of got a trial run of this a couple of years earlier with New Nightmare, because that's when he starts kind of introducing the meta aspects, like Heather Langenkamp playing herself.
Oh, I loved it.
Wes Craven also makes an appearance as himself. We got fucking Bob Shea.
It's genius. It really was.
I really, really enjoyed that movie, and I have since I was a kid. Like, Miko Hughes kills it. Robert Englund is technically playing like a shadow of Freddy Krueger, basically. It's like a demonic entity taking the form of Freddy.
Right.
So we got a whole different like redesign on the wardrobe and costume. Everything is completely different. But that was Wes Craven's dry run of trying to perfect this meta masterpiece. And obviously Kevin Williamson had a lot to do with that as well. I don't want to leave him out. Back to the cast list, we've got Stu Macher, played by Matthew Lillard, giving an absolute balls to the wall fucking performance.
Just absolutely psycho.
Every single time he's on screen, he's a nut job.
Yep.
Oh my god.
There's a reason I think this is a movie that helped put him on the map for sure, because this just shows his chops.
Yeah, we're still talking about the cast list, and we're 12 and a half minutes into this podcast. But I mean, this is one where like I'm already settling into like, goddamn, this might be the most popular episode. This might be one of the more important episodes that we cover, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, Gail Weathers, of course, played by Courtney Cox. I like that she makes a reference later in the movie about how her name sounds like a meteorologist or something. Dewey Riley, Deputy Dewey, played by David Arquette, of course.
Dewey dumbass, you gotta love him.
I like Doofy. It reminds me of fucking scary movie. I told you don't bother me when I'm cleaning my room. So Courtney Cox and David Arquette met on the set of Scream. They ended up getting together and being married for many years. You gotta love it. Love that for them. Love to see it. Randy Meeks, played by Jamie Kennedy, is maybe, for me, the most important character in this movie.
I think so.
I'm just going to throw it out there. It's what we all as fucking film nerds, especially horror film nerds, wanted to be. He is the one that introduced the world to the fact that there are rules for horror.
He's the reason I wanted to work at a Video Connection when I was a kid.
He's also a cool ass dude. He was also at Horror Hound, and Hannah and I ended up hanging out with him fucking like most of the weekend because like his line happened to be shorter than everybody else's for some reason, and I was like, fuck it, dude, like what are you guys doing? That's fucking Jamie Kennedy, dog.
Yeah,
like, go
chat him up.
get in that line, dude. We fucking passed through that line like 8 times over the weekend. Just be, what's up, Jamie, how's it going, man? Like he was cool as shit. Casey Becker, played by Drew Barrymore. Now this is obviously the most controversial casting of this movie. She's all over the fucking poster, all over the cover. Her name is the fucking leading, the first one. She's got top billing on everything, which is interesting because she is way not the main character of this movie.
Not in the slightest.
No, and I think that's what they wanted to do. It was a shock.
Speaking of nods to Psycho.
Yeah, like
we're doing that again. We're taking what you think is going to be our main character and fucking erasing her immediately.
right. And then you don't know what's going to happen. You know, that leaves you questioning the whole film. Oh, what?
No one is safe.
Right, exactly.
And nobody talks about, like, she's only mentioned like 3 more times. Like, well, you don't want to end up like Casey, do you? And it's just like, oh, okay. She's literally just gone. Like, she was there to be the opening wild kill, by the way. I thought the kill in the beginning was nuts for a night. Like, I don't think that there was anything more gruesome than the gut spilling of Steve.
We're going to get to the opening, and literally my first note on this whole thing is best opening ever.
Right.
Fuck. Oh my God.
So
all-timer. Period. Period. But I did want to mention about Drew Barrymore. She was approached about this movie, and I think she was offered the role of Sydney and turned it down because this is the role that she was most interested in. And that was a great fucking call, man.
Right.
Like
She kills it in just this small little performance.
It's another situation like if Nick Castle hadn't been the one to be Michael Myers, the tone would have been completely different because he fucking perfectly nailed everything. You know, like I feel like she is the tone setter of this movie, and her extremely emotional performance here, and believable performance sets everything in motion, and it fucking, I don't know, it's just fantastic. Fucking love it. We also have the sister of Dewey, Tatum Riley, played by Rose McGowan and her nipples.
Even Hannah noticed that. Also, Dusty and I both mentioned Hannah's. Dusty's daughter's name is Hannah, and my wife's name is Hannah. So,
we haven't addressed that yet, have we?
No, we haven't.
I know that we've both mentioned, like, my kid's into horror. Your wife is your wife. So
she likes horror too. She digs it. So I mean,
but yeah, we're both dropping Hannah. It's definitely not the same.
Not the
Hannah,
same one. That would. But yeah, she like. There's when Tatum walks into the garage, she's like, "Holy nipple alert, Batman!"
Yeah, hell yeah.
There's a comment I had about that later in my notes that we'll get to, but yeah, Rose McGowan's cool. She fucking sells it. She's a really cool presence in this movie. She's I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but like her demeanor is pretty fucking great. We've got Kenny, who is Gail's cameraman, played by W. Earl Brown, who was also at that same convention that I was at, that we didn't get a chance to meet, unfortunately. And probably the most important casting, right up there alongside Casey Becker, right alongside Sidney Prescott, is Ghostface himself, or at least the voice of Ghostface, played by Roger Jackson. He's credited as Roger Jackson in IMDb. I always thought it was Roger L. Jackson. I always wondered if he was related to Samuel L. Jackson. Which, of course, everybody knows is Spanish for the Jackson.
Ghostface, motherfucker!
I really fucking wish I had a cool voice like this guy. Because goddamn, this vocal performance is the shit.
It's one of those voices that chilled me to the bone as a kid.
Yeah. Big time.
Do we know if that is close to his just talking voice, or if he's laying it on?
I don't know.
I would be curious to know that.
I don't think I've ever seen any like interviews with him or anything to know what his natural speaking voice is.
Something I'll be looking up after this. I wonder if he's just.
Guys, we'll be right back. We're gonna turn on the bonus features, see if he has an interview, and we'll return momentarily.
But yeah, this is such a good, like, apparently there was a situation where they decided not to introduce him to the rest of the cast. They wanted to keep it kind of separate, kept him a menacing presence throughout while they were having phone conversations, because they were literally like in the moment having a phone conversation with each other.
And that makes sense. You get more genuine reactions if, you know, you see somebody's face, it's going to be a little different.
And he still does the voiceover, right?
I believe so.
And even in like the remake,
I don't think anyone
not the
else,
remakes, but the sequels.
No one else has ever been Ghostface.
That's what I thought. Okay.
There have been the stunt performer I got to check in on, because I feel like he might have changed over the years. There might be like a main dude, kind of like everyone envisions Kane Hodder is Jason, Nick Castle is Michael, you know, that kind of thing. But that's definitely worth looking into. While we're going through the cast list, we also usually touch on music and cinematography. Music by Marco Beltrami, and it fucking rules. Start to finish, both the score and the needle drops. Holy shit.
Yeah, I have a note about halfway down. I forget which song it was that popped up, but I was just like, man, every single needle drop that's in this song is fucking awesome.
The only one I can really remember, or that I paid attention to because I was waiting for it, because I fucking love it, is obviously Red Right Hand, that everybody fucking loves. It was the theme song for the show Peaky Blinders, which is also a dope-ass show. You should check it out.
Used heavily in Dumb and Dumber as well.
Oh, right.
Like, so obviously they came around similar times. 96, I don't know when Dumb and Dumber was, probably like 95 or so.
I was going to say 94 to 96.
When I hear it, I think of both. You know, I think of Jim Carrey, you know, stupid fucking gloves and shit, you know what I mean? But at the same time, I think of Scream too, so it's cool that...
I just can't help. That's like another mark that this movie made. I can't not think of this movie when I hear that song.
Yeah.
Right.
Every single episode of Peaky Blinders I watched, and I fucking watched them all.
Featuring Oscar winner Cillian Murphy.
Fuck yeah, dude. Dude, Cillian Murphy, Tom Hardy, that fucking show rocks.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that is the fuck. It was a pre-existing song by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, right? But goddamn, is it a cool song to throw in a movie?
Yeah, there was a second needle drop, and it's toward the end of the movie. I couldn't find the name of the song. I should have just Shazammed it on my phone. I don't know why the fuck I didn't do that, but I was just like,
we're not
wow,
perfect now.
That fits. I know, you know, we can't be perfect.
Not all the
Also, I watched it. I started at 10:30 last night, so you know.
I don't think I got another needle drop. I was just way excited about Red Right Hand and fucking kept it there.
Yeah, and for all you superhero nerds who has just as big as fan base as horror does, Marco Beltrami does the score for Logan.
Yes.
The Wolverine movie.
Marco Beltrami is all over the place. He's a big deal, and it's for a fucking reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Dude's talented.
Cinematography, once again, by Mark Irwin. I think, you know, obviously the director and the cinematographer work extremely closely, so there are questions about, like, whose shots are they really, but, like, obviously Mark Irwin was there to do a job, and he fucking did it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, getting back to it, best fucking opening ever for a horror movie, for any fucking movie, I think. Casey Becker, Drew Barrymore, is making some popcorn, and she gets a call from good old Ghostface.
Specifically, the Jiffy Pop, man.
Right.
I feel like I don't see that anymore.
No, you don't.
Have you ever had Jiffy Pop?
Nope, I've never had it.
I remember them selling them at stores, and I can't tell you the last time I saw one.
I remember making one. Specifically one.
I was gonna say I can remember when, just like a vague memory of my mom making it, but because that's like my mom's go-to snack is popcorn, and so I can remember once as a kid it, you know, like the whole bubble going up and whatever.
Right.
But I personally have never had it.
Right.
So
crazy.
So there's immediately some confusion about, like, who did you call? What number is this? Well, what number are you trying to dial? And he goes, I don't know. Like, what the fuck do you mean? Tell me what number you just punched in or thought you punched in on the fucking phone. It's 96. It's not like you have speed dial going on.
Yeah, right.
Like, but at the bottom line, this guy has got a sexy voice.
Dusty's laying it all out today.
I'm telling you, dude. I appreciate it. I wish I had half the voice this guy has.
For sure.
So he calls back again, and she's like, hey, still wrong number. He's like, oh, yeah, but I called you back to apologize. And then she's like, what do you want? He just goes to talk. She's like, they got 900 numbers for that.
Right.
I love how much she's like, dude, I'm not talking to you. Like, this is not happening.
I got in trouble for 900 numbers when I was a kid. I don't have to talk about it. When Drew Barrymore puts this fucking Jiffy Pop on the stove, she immediately walks away from it.
Yep.
What are we doing?
Not the greatest idea, but
It's a fucking horrible idea. She's going to set her fucking house on fire.
I'm not sure, but I swear I've read somewhere that like the fire part wasn't supposed to happen.
No?
with it being smoky.
I could be wrong, but like I swear in like when those magazines come out in October of like the Scream revisit or whatever, that I've read somewhere that the popcorn wasn't supposed to catch fire, but it works so well with the scene that they left it in.
It seems pretty intentional, but shit happens
Who
on
knows?
movie sets.
I don't know. Yeah.
Ghostface calls again and asks her hey, WYD. And she's like, I'm getting ready to watch a video, just some scary movie. And of course he asks her the fucking iconic line, what's your favorite scary movie?
The guy with the white mask.
Of course, this is is this the second or the first? Is this the first one? This is the first one, yeah. First Halloween reference. She says Halloween is her favorite scary movie. You know, the guy with the white mask stalks babysitters, blah, 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 blah. Turns out Nightmare on Elm Street, ironically enough, is Ghostface's favorite movie.
Oh, yeah.
Wes Craven, of course.
Hey, that's a good pick.
He asked her if she's got a boyfriend. She says no. Why?
You're a liar.
Why do you ask? Because he says, because I want to know who I'm looking at.
Oh,
And
yeah.
Fuck! Red alert, dude. Holy shit. What did you just say? And
Yeah.
he's like, I want to know who I'm talking to. She's
Right.
like, no.
That's not what you said.
Yeah.
That is absolutely not what he said.
Ooh.
But she locks the door at this point, and he's like, don't hang up on me. And, like, you start just hearing the fucking savage, like, Roger Jackson. Fuck, man. He just
Once
murders
he starts
every part of this.
Yeah, once he starts getting angry, is like he just turns it up.
Yeah. It's fucking great.
Yeah,
One of the best voice performances of all time.
we're gonna keep talking about it because it is just so chilling.
You're damn right. The popcorn by this point is getting fucking enormous. It looks almost cartoonish, but I know that Jiffy Pops naturally do look that way.
Yeah, they get big.
Yeah, for sure. When he calls back again, she's like, listen. He's like, no, you listen, bitch. If you hang up on me, I'm going to gut you like a fish. Which that's another heavily referenced line. But he
Right.
goes, can you handle that, Blondie?
Right.
And that's what freaks her. I don't know if it's the line that freaks her out or the fact that she backs up into her fridge at the same time and thinks someone's behind her or something, maybe.
Mhm. Yeah,
it's
probably
just-
a little bit of both.
It's just more of he's watching and she knows.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's not just some random caller. This
Mhm.
guy's outside somewhere or
Yeah.
Because he wouldn't know if it was a rando. He wouldn't know I had blonde hair,
Right.
unless he was staring at me.
I mean, your odds are pretty good of guessing the right color hair, I suppose.
there's only a few, but yeah, still. It's,
In the height of that moment, though, like
Maybe not in 2024. But
yeah,
in
not in
96, for
yeah
sure.
in '96. Somebody calls and be like, "Hey, Blondie," you'd be like, "Oh fuck, how do you know? I'm not on Facebook."
She mentioned she's going to call the police, and he's like, go ahead. Like, he goes, the police would never make it in time. We're in the middle of nowhere. She goes, what do you want? He goes, to see what your insides look like. Fuck! What?
God, that's so fucking scary.
Jesus, man. Okay, like, this is establishing something that's revisited later about, like, no motive. I'm doing this because it's a thing to do.
right.
You know? Jesus.
You just were unfortunately selected this evening.
Right.
You and your boy toy, Steve.
Yeah, fucking Steve. There's always a fucking Steve.
Always Steve. Steves are always fucking up and getting killed.
Yeah, fucking tell me about it. Did Steve get killed in Hellraiser? He didn't get killed. He made it, didn't he? Because they were watching the fucking weird
Yep,
skeleton
Steve,
dragon.
He
at the
does
end.
make it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay. Just one set. I'm setting records straight before we start getting fucking set. Let me try that again. Setting records straight before we start getting messages about it and shit.
Steve didn't die in Hellraiser. Shut up, Necromancer.
Yeah, I fucking know. God. The doorbell rings at this point, and she goes, "Who's there?" which of course is a big no-no. He says, you have a death wish, like you might as well come outside and investigate a strange noise.
Right.
Which she then does.
Which she then does. She mentions, my boyfriend will be here, and he's big, and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you. He's like, oh, I'm shaking in my boots. His name isn't Steve, is it?
Yeah. He's a step ahead already, you know?
He's a Steve ahead. Turns out Steve is on the patio, tied up in a fucking chair with duct tape over his mouth now, which he wasn't earlier because she had already looked out onto the patio.
Oh, yeah.
When she turns the light on, there's nothing out there. She turns it back off and walks away.
Shows they're both there at that point.
Yeah, exactly. It shows us that they're both there. It shows her physical confirmation of, the fact that it's not just a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
So Ghostface says, I want to play a game or he dies, basically. And she's like, what kind of game? Turn off the light and you'll see what kind of game. Simply put, if you get the questions right, Steve lives. And we're doing movie trivia. And the first question, of course, is name the killer in Halloween. And earlier we got, confirmation that that's her favorite scary movie. So she better know the answer to this fucking question, right?
It's an easy one.
Yep.
Yeah. Who doesn't know that? At this point, I did notice there's a little bit of the Halloween soundtrack in the score, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's playing very slowly when Casey is like crouched behind the TV.
Oh, wow. I didn't catch that.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
So she ends up like pulling the plug on the lamp that's above her for some reason, even though the rest of the room is very well lit.
Right.
So she gets that one right, of course, and then he goes, name the killer in Friday the 13th. And then she sounds like your wife on date night. She's like, Jason.
Or that's it. That was weak. Damn.
Or you know what? I didn't want to commit to it too hard. Or maybe it's how she sounds when you haven't done something you were supposed to. I don't know.
Take the garbage out, please.
Jesus.
So she yells out Jason, and he's like, no, bitch, wrong answer. She's like, no, I've seen that movie a ton. He's like, no, well, then you should probably know that it's actually his mom, you piece of shit. Lucky for you, there's a bonus round, but poor Steve is out. And he goes, turn on the patio light again.
Right.
And fucking poor Steve out there, dude, is just gutted.
Just organs out, intestines laying around.
It's rough, dude.
Yeah.
Apparently they had to edit that a little bit because it was just too much initially. Like shit was like falling on the ground and like splashing and squelching and
Fucking sick.
Right.
Yeah.
And Jason's like,
Had to be adjusted, huh? I really don't doubt it,
Well, for that time, that's kind of what I wrote down was just there was nothing quite that brutal
Right.
up until this point, we'd seen, stabs and like I said earlier, the arrow going through the throat, but nobody just fucking completely disemboweled
right.
up until Scream.
Yeah. So Ghostface is like, yo, we ain't finished yet. You still got a question coming. And his question is, what door am I at? That's not fair. There's two of you, Ghostface. You're at both doors.
Hey, we don't know that yet.
I don't give a shit. He does.
Yeah.
As far as we know, there's only one killer running around.
That's bullshit. So at that same, he doesn't even let her answer, and there's a fucking chair crashing through the patio door. Which by this point, the fucking house is smelling up. Jesus Christ, it's smelling up.
Smelling up.
The house is filling up with smoke, and Ghostface fucking runs by. Which is when she then goes outside, and I really like the shots of her outside looking in on Ghostface.
And him running around the house and shit.
Yeah, they're really,
Her thinking she's gonna get away.
yeah. I don't know what it is about these shots. I just really like the way they're staged. At this point, though, she sees her parents' car coming up the road, but here comes fucking Ghostface right behind her again. He jumps out a fucking window, tackles her, and by the time he catches up to her, he wraps his hand around her mouth and then really takes his time aiming that knife at her chest.
Right. It's like aiming for her lungs or something, right?
Well, it also shows an inexperience. I think he's probably aiming for her heart.
Right.
But he's just like bumbling. Like a lot of people say they can tell like which Ghostface is doing the killing in various scenes, and this is probably Stu.
Ah, okay.
Because like he's taking his time making sure he's got the right spot, kind of a thing. And I feel like Billy, it would be more of an instinctive
Right.
reaction.
I always feel
almost.
like I wrote down later in my notes because like in the garage you can tell it's definitely Billy because Stu's in the house, but then like I always think that it's Stu when he's just making dumb fucking mess ups. He's like
he's
getting
doing
tripped.
pratfalls all
He's
over
falling
the place.
all over the place. I'm like, oh, there's Stu.
You doofy fucker. So the parents' car is coming up. He stabs her. He ends up choking her some at the same time too, and then she knees him in the balls. Good for you, Casey. And then she tries to scurry back to her parents, but Ghostface again catches up.
Too quick for you.
Climbs on top of her. She pulls off his she pulls off his mask and sees who it is right before she gets stabbed one final time. But
Couple times. He stabs her like 3 times there.
does he? Okay. Here's the thing though, like she was super close to her parents. If you can't talk because you just got choked, throw that fucking phone at him. Why are you still holding it?
Yeah, she could have tried a little harder, I guess, but
That's all she's got to do. And then I guarantee Ghostface would have run away because that's just too much to handle suddenly.
right.
You know?
Listen, my mind's not going to throw the phone.
Mine
It's
was.
just like get away. I get that, but you weren't just stabbed in the neck.
That's true.
Right.
I have never been stabbed in the neck, and I hope to fucking. Where's my fuck?
There it is. Knock on the wood.
So yeah, Casey's fucking dunzo at this point. The parents come in, and the popcorn is just straight flaming. And one of the parents says something about where is she? Mom picks up the phone, and she can hear Casey on the other end of the line.
Just
That's some heavy shit.
Yeah.
Getting murdered.
I mean, that would be like, as a parent, that would be like the ultimate, like, I'm going to be going through some shit because I'm literally hearing my kid die.
I'm probably done with life at that
Yep.
point.
100%.
I don't know. Like,
Unless I can personally kill this person who just killed my kid.
maybe, yeah, but that would fuck you up so bad.
Yep.
Casey's just like gasping and getting dragged away, basically. I thought that she dropped the phone at some point, but I guess not? Question mark?
Yeah, no, still just like stuck to her hand or whatever.
Yeah, she was holding it as she was getting drug out.
We get yet another Halloween reference here because Mr. Becker tells his wife to go down to the Mackenzies.
Right.
But unfortunately, when Mama Becker walks out, she looks up and sees that Casey is fucking strung up in a tree and completely gutted. A super arresting image.
Oh, yeah. It's super fucked. And is she hung by rope or is she hung by her intestines?
Oh, fuck. I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and find out.
I could not. And I was watching this on 4K last night, dark room. I was like, I've never had this thought before, but fuck, is that her intestines holding her up?
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's shitty. Either way, whether it is or isn't, it's a fucking hate.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really cool effect too when the camera is zooming in on her because it's a bunch of jump cuts basically, and like it's unnaturally edited, kind of like our unnatural movement that we don't like, kind of thing. But it just has that same vibe. Fuck.
I think Drew Barrymore looks great.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. Like that specifically.
Yeah. No, okay.
Sure.
I mean, you don't see her like that in movies. You know what I mean?
Okay, well, it's a wrap, everybody. We're gonna.
And it was at that moment we booted Jason from the room, kicked him through the window next to us, actually, and said, "That's too far, buddy."
Man, you
Yeah,
look, you look real pretty like that. And I said nice tits kid in the last episode, so that's really bad.
You know, it's just unusual. You know, like I like.
Great. I'm happy for you.
I don't know where to go from that, but Drew Barrymore, huh?
All right, so we cut to Sydney on her computer.
There
right?
it is. Woo!
And she hears a noise outside of her window, and of course that's Billy. He sneaks in because he's never snuck in before, apparently. And then her dad knocks, and she's got this cool like fail-safe lock system where she opens up her closet door, and it blocks her regular bedroom door from opening, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, hell yeah.
But her dad's like, "Oh, did I hear screaming in here? I swear to God, I heard screaming." She's like, "No, you didn't. Totally not." He explains that he's going to an expo until Sunday. And, you know, he gets done talking about it. He mentions it again, and it's really weird when he does, because he's like, I could have swore I heard screaming in here. And he's got like a little grin on when he says that.
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck are
Maybe,
we doing?
You know, maybe he's just a dad, just been like, you got
Are
someone
you
in
sure
there.
you weren't screaming?
Come on.
Yeah, okay. No,
Also,
fuck
like, like he comes through the window. This Boy Meets World, like other things, just had me thinking.
that. Clarissa explains it all, dude.
People were just fucking gonna be climbing through my windows all the time, or I was gonna have to climb through
I can
windows.
do that if you need me to.
No, that's
No?
okay, but
Okay.
it literally, like, it was a literal fear of mine when I was a kid that people were gonna crawl in my windows.
All right, let me write this down real quick.
Okay.
Play prank on Nick this Halloween.
Dusty plays. You guys are gonna see a news report.
Man
dies.
shoots
This
friend.
is gonna be a 2-person podcast soon.
Man
One way or
shoots
another.
Yeah. Friend dies after playing crazy trick on podcast co-host.
So yeah, Billy, once Dad leaves the room, you know, Billy throws a stuffed animal up over the bed and he's like, oh, close call, which is when he then says, it occurred to me that I've never snuck through your window before, so let's fucking check that off the bucket list. But then he mentions to her one of the most fucked up lines I've ever heard in my life, which is, I was watching The Exorcist and it got me thinking of you.
Hell yeah.
I
That's
mean,
exactly what you want to say to your sweetheart.
what is that supposed to mean? But he explains to us what it means. Basically, he's saying what I watched on TV was edited for TV, and they took out all the good parts, just like our relationship. Show me them titties. It's like
Fucking pervert.
we had a nice solid R rating on our way to an NC-17, then it just got all watered down and blah 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 blah. Like, bro, relax. Again, her
You-
mom, less
yeah.
than a year ago.
Yeah, he's pretty hyped up, you know.
Oh yeah. He was like, well, maybe I thought maybe we could do a little on top of the clothes stuff. The third Halloween reference of the movie, because now Don't Fear the Reaper starts playing.
Oh yeah.
It's like a slow
holy
cover.
Shit.
Yep.
Yeah, man.
That one I
Damn.
did notice.
Damn.
This is crazy. Sydney pulls away from Billy when he starts breaking the fucking rule. He said on top of the clothes, and then he's like sliding his hand up inside of her little nightie there.
She's like, okay, time to leave. See ya. Breaking my rule. And
Yeah.
then he makes that stupid fucking I was only half serious.
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about?
Dude,
Get the fuck- if she
yeah.
hadn't stopped you, you'd have gone all the way. Shut the fuck up. She goes, I appreciate the romantic gesture. And he's like, hey, listen, I'm not trying to rush you, whatever. And she goes, would you settle for a PG-13 relationship? And he flashes him.
Right.
Calls her a tease.
You can tell that he enjoyed it, you know. He's got that
Well,
smirk
yeah,
on his
obviously
face.
enjoyed it. It's boobs.
Yeah.
He's a kid in high school staring at a fucking pair of tits through the window.
It's boobs.
Beebs. B-E-W-B-Z. We cut to Woodsboro High School, where there's like a bunch of areas blocked off by cops and news crews and fucking medical personnel of various kind. Like, I don't even know why half of this shit is necessary, because yes, someone got murdered tonight in a completely different place than this. Nothing has suggested that anything's going to happen at a school. You know,
Yeah.
It happened to be a student at the school, sure,
Right.
but it was
Um,
just an incident that happened at her house. No one has any idea who might be responsible, etc.,
Right.
etc.
I think they're just automatically lumping it into, you know, if you're in high school and something happens to you.
Yeah,
Typically it has something to do with the kids, you know.
yeah, I suppose so. At this moment, Beltrami's score picks up in a really cool way. I feel like the score is driving the fucking movie along at this point.
This movie moves at a breakneck pace.
Oh yeah,
It's so fast. I mean, it's almost 2 hours, but it feels like the whole thing goes by in an hour.
and that is fucking incredible, considering the last third of the movie takes place in one location.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Insane. Linda Blair pops up. She's playing a reporter in the background. She's wearing some cross earrings. Those are pretty cool.
Oh,
Hell yeah.
Gail is reporting as well. And then Tatum walks up and kind of spooks Sydney a little bit, but tells her about Casey. Like, she fills her in on what the fuck is going on. She's like, oh, they're saying it's the worst crime in years, even worse than,
You know.
yeah.
I painted myself into a corner. I'm sorry.
And yet another fucking Halloween reference coming up right here because Sydney's in class. Is this the point where it comes? It has to be, right?
Yeah, she's where she like makes the kind of the look up toward the window.
Yeah.
Laurie Strode.
It's like almost an exact recreation of her looking over. Like they don't show the window.
Yeah.
But her kind of like she's got like her hand on the chin, kind of looking over.
Like, Wes, what is the deal with the Halloween stuff, man?
He knew what he was doing.
He knew his inspirations, I guess.
I mean, I guess, yeah. So she goes to Principal Himbry's office, played by the motherfucking Fonz, y'all.
Who I always forget for some reason.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even mention him in my fucking cast rundown, did I?
No.
Mr. Arthur Fonzarelli himself. Fucking Principal Himbry is played by Henry Winkler. And he's fucking great in this movie.
Yeah, he fucking like...
He's officially the coolest fucking high school principal of all
literally is threatening students with knives.
He's pointing scissors at their face.
Yeah.
He's like, you
scissors.
little shits are expelled. Like, yeah, fucking get him, Fonz.
Hell yeah.
But Sydney comes down just before she comes into the room. Himbry and the cops mention like, oh yeah, she's the daughter of, well, you know, like
right.
Everyone's like agreed not to talk about it or some shit.
Right.
Sydney ends up saying something to Dewey and calling him Dewey, and he's like, oh, it's Officer Riley today, Sid. Okay. We cut to the kids out in the courtyard, the kids being Sydney, Billy, Stu, Randy, and Tatum.
Sydney was still in the principal's office.
No, she wasn't. She was there for that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure?
Yeah, positive.
Okay.
Because he says something about, Stu says something about gutting someone, and that's when Billy calls him a fuck rag.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, it's called tact, you fuck rag. I know for a fact that Nev Campbell is sitting right next to Scott Ulrich for that.
Yeah.
So this is where we get introduced to Randy, however. Actually, I think, and Stu, right?
Yeah, Stu's there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I know that he's there, but like we hadn't seen him before this.
Oh, yeah. No, like this is, I think, the first time he's really like talking.
Mm-hmm. We also find out about Stu, though, that he used to date Casey, and fucking Randy at this point is already on to Stu.
Mm-hmm.
He knows what the fuck is up.
Hell yeah.
From the first frame he's on the screen, he knows what's going on.
Wait a minute. Didn't you date the victim?
Right.
The police like to know that.
The plot thickens. And he makes fun of him about saying like, "Oh, it takes a man to do something like that," like gutting a body, which is bullshit. Why wouldn't a woman be able to do that? But then we get Randy's fucking Jerry Lewis impersonation. He's like, "Oh, did he really put her liver in the mailbox? Because I heard they found their liver in the mailbox." It's pretty great. Sydney ends up getting off the bus back home. She has a quick phone call with Tatum about Sydney staying over with her because she doesn't want to be alone.
Yeah.
But she does have a quick mention here of the situation at school feeling like deja vu because a year ago she was just dealing with this same kind of shit with her mom.
Right.
So she ends up sitting down and turning on the TV, and every fucking channel is about the murders. It's all just news.
Right.
And Gail also goes the extra mile and mentions Sydney's mom, which gets her fucking riled up. I did notice in this moment that the score is matching up with the second hand of the clock ticking right here.
Oh, I didn't
pretty
notice
cool.
that.
Nice touch.
But then Sydney falls asleep. Tatum was supposed to pick her up at 7. But when she wakes up to a phone call, it's Tatum telling her, "Hey, I'm on my way. I'm running late. Practice ran late or whatever." And it's 7:15. She mentions that she's going to swing by the video store to probably get all the right moves so that they can see Tom Cruise's penis. Because if you pause it just right.
Nice.
But then immediately after they're done talking, she gets another call. And we get the "Hello, Sydney." He mentions like, "Oh, everything happening right now is like a horror movie. Oh man." And of course she thinks it's Randy. Fucking poor Randy.
Right.
is getting blamed all over the place.
So I was like, is Randy constantly making these pranks because he like watches scary movies all the time? Is he just calling Sydney all the time? Like,
No.
Sydney, what's your scary movie?
They're just being fucking stereotypical, and it must be the guy that knows all about horror movies, because that's what fucking people have a history of going to, I guess. Like, what, we're going to get implicated in a murder one day, guys. I don't know what to
Satanic
tell you.
panic, man.
Might happen.
Right.
Mhm.
So it's Ghostface, obviously, on the other end of the line. Sydney mentions not liking horror movies. Ghostface mentions that he's not Randy. And she's like, all right, well, who are you? And he goes, well, the question is, where am I? And he tells her he's on her front porch. And she's like, well, I don't get it. He was like, well, that's the original part. Sort of a, calls are coming from inside the house thing. But then she calls his bluff and comes out onto the porch, and there's no one there. And she asks him, of course, can you see me right now? And starts picking her nose, which is fun.
Yeah, she's like, what am I doing?
Yeah, what am I doing?
Yeah, but he's a lot quicker to get pissed off in this circumstance, because she doesn't even get to hang up on him, because he's like, if you hang up on me, you'll die like your mother, basically. And then he sneaks up on her out of a fucking closet, and the fucking chase is on around the house.
Yep.
And she does exactly what she just mentioned that she said was stupid about horror movies. Instead of going out the front door, because she tries to open it, but the fucking chain is on it.
Right.
So instead she runs up the stairs just like she said not to do.
Yep. Traps herself in her own house, man.
Mm-hmm.
But then she does her old blocking the door trick and pulls that closet door over, and he can't get in.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good move for sure. But then he kind of just disappears. But he ends up like catching up to her at some point and fucking smashes her head on the floor.
Oh yeah, man,
It's kinda
it's
crazy.
brutal. Like you can almost feel the fucking
Yeah,
bounce off the floor there.
it's rough. She ends up kicking him off of her though. She tries to call the cops, but her phone is dead, so she does it on her computer instead. I didn't realize that this was a thing that existed in 96.
No idea.
It was something that I had thought about too. Same thing you said. I'm like, wow, I don't remember having a computer that early to
I was
have
but a
something like
babe.
that. But
Right, I
if
wasn't even 10 yet.
It
Yeah.
makes total sense though. I mean, you're hardwired in with the phone line.
Yeah,
Right?
I suppose, yeah.
Makes
sure.
sense. But yeah, I guess a little before our time, boys.
Yeah, I guess so. But, Ghostface vanishes, and then conveniently Billy shows up, of course, with a cell phone.
Anybody else notice that she ran upstairs to this room?
Yeah, I just said
her
that.
room. Right. How Billy had a ladder or what?
I wonder, because I thought I noticed, I guess I didn't pay close enough attention, but when he exited her room the first time, didn't it seem like he was kind of crawling down a ladder for a second, but then he like took a step to the left, like the ground was right there? Is her room on the ground floor?
Can't be. She ran upstairs.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
a good point. I feel
There's
like a
and
dumbass
there's
now.
like he's sitting, because when they're talking the first time, he's sitting on like
Maybe he stepped off onto
like a second roof, like
another
there's-
tier
yeah,
of the
there's-
roof.
Yeah.
Right.
Or they are in California too. Everything's like on the hills. It could be a thing where you pull up and
Maybe there's a shed there he climbed up. I don't know.
Mhm.
be a million things.
It's like all these movies, man. Don't think about it hard enough or you're going to ruin it for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
He's just on the roof, Jason.
So, of course, he drops the cell phone. She immediately suspects him and then runs out the door. But then Dewey's standing there with a mask and scares the shit out of her, holding it up to the people for some reason.
Dewey
What are you fucking
screams.
doing?
Yeah, Doobie screams. That's
Why is it-
hilarious.
Did you just call him Doobie?
Dewey.
Doobie. Doobie, Dewey, Dewey.
But yeah, why are you holding it up to the door like that? Why was he standing like that? I don't get it. Billy is arrested at this point. Tatum drives up in a red Volkswagen Beetle. This is actually a Shining reference, because in The Shining, the movie, they drive a yellow Volkswagen Beetle. However, in the book, it is in fact red.
Okay.
So
Dusty
Tatum,
with the knowledge drops today.
hey man, I'm not just another pretty face, all right? I'm not even just a pretty face. Tatum calls Dewey Doofus at this point, which is fun. And then Gail shows up, and she's yelling at her cameraman constantly in this movie. Poor Kenny.
She's fat shaming him hard.
She's vicious to this dude. But she recognizes what's going on, and she's like, Jesus, get the camera. He's like, my name's not Jesus. I think this is the first time I ever noticed that. But Gail tries to question Tatum, and then again yells at fucking Kenny because she's like, when I say move, that means move your fat tub of lard ass now.
Yeah, dude.
Like, damn, dude.
Brutal.
Relax. Jesus.
Also, does she just have
wait, he's not Jesus.
No, he's not. Yeah, sorry. Does she just fucking wired into the police? Like, how did she know to go there right away? Like,
I don't think it's uncommon for them to be like tuned in to the police lines on the radio and shit.
Okay.
I don't know.
But she's the only news van that showed up that day, and
Was
she's like, she makes a comment later that she's like tabloid news, not even the news.
Yeah,
so
top story sounds pretty fucking illegitimate.
Yeah.
So Dewey is at the police station trying to get a hold of Sid's dad. The cops end up asking Billy at that same time why he's got a phone and what he was doing at Sydney's house. And he was just like, oh, I was just out for a ride, whatever. Because his dad's sitting right next to him, of course.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's trying to play it off. And the sheriff, like, zings him right away. He's like, oh, did you happen to ride by Casey Becker's house?
Right.
And this is where we get your favorite line from earlier, Jason.
Which one?
When Billy is defending himself. What does he say?
Oh, yeah. Sheriff, I didn't kill anybody.
The sheriff mentions, though, that the cops are keeping Billy for now. Real quick, I think this sheriff is one of the cops from Nightmare on Elm Street, if I'm not mistaken.
I looked it up last night. I was like, I know he's in a fuck ton of other horror movies, a lot of which are like B movies, but then, he's in Nightmare.
Yeah. Okay. Tatum's talking shit to Dewey again, and he fucking delivers one of the best fucking lines of the movie. He's like, what did mama tell you? When I wear this badge, you treat me like a man of the law.
That's embarrassing.
David Arquette kills this character all the way up until he's killed.
Well, killed.
Yeah, right. I mean, nobody dies in this franchise.
Right. Outside the station, Gail ends up getting wise. We do get another shot of Linda Blair. But Gail catches up to Sydney and Tatum on the outside because she's like, oh, is there a back door to this place? I'm going to go fucking cover that. And they come out and they're talking for a second. And Sydney's like, no, Tatum, it's cool. She's just doing her job, whatever. And she is talking some pretty severe shit to her. But they talk about the book, and Gail says something about, I'll send you a copy.
Yeah.
And Sydney just turns around and fucking cleans her clock, dude.
Hell yeah.
Fucking good for her. I wrote down, this is the part where I wrote down, I was like, man, Sydney really is one of the best final girls, because she just fucking fights back at every turn she gets.
Yeah.
Not just to Ghostface, but like, she doesn't take shit from fucking anybody.
Yeah, Sydney's cool. I like Sydney. And bam, the bitch went down, indeed. Which Tatum mentions in the next little scene here when they're in her bedroom. Extremely, extremely fucking 90s bedroom.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Dewey ends up bringing Sid some ice for her fucking right hook she threw. Tatum mentions, oh, I knew Billy was too perfect. I'm like, okay. Why is he so fucking greasy? That's my question. He's greasy all of the time. Oh, just all of it.
He's just sweating all the time, I guess. But the thing I noticed, and Hannah actually pointed it out, why does Tatum have two beds in her room? Her and Dewey aren't sharing a room. There's no fucking way.
Huh.
Because Sydney is on one bed. There is clearly an end table in there, and then Tatum is on another bed.
That did not occur to me.
That's a very good
Hannah
observation.
was just like, wait a second. And I was like, maybe rich people just fucking have two beds in their rooms. I don't know.
Why do you got the Ricky and Lucy going on in there?
Yeah.
So the killer, who is undisclosed at this point, ends up calling Sydney at Tatum's house. Like, somehow knows she's there.
Yep.
She asks if it's her dad, and the lady's like, no, I don't think so. Dewey ends up running out in t-shirt and boxers with his gun, like
after she gets off the phone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And he picks up the phone at the very end of the scene, and he's trying to be all dashing, I guess. He's like, hello? And there's nothing, fucking whatever.
Had we kind of thought about it, that's definitely kind of canceling out people that could possibly be the killer. Like, okay, so who could possibly know that she's with Tatum? Mm-hmm. So it can't be Billy, because Billy's in jail, right?
Right.
Well, yeah, and he brings that up when they're fighting at the
Stu.
school.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stu.
Yeah.
It's obviously Stu.
For sure. And in that particular case, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. This is where we get our fucking first red right hand needle drop. Super hyped for this. And then shortly after that, I think at this point there's like a montage. Oh, no. That's the next time it happens, because it's not the only time they play red right hand.
Yeah, it plays twice. The first time there's no words, and then the second time you actually hear Nick Cave.
Yeah.
Okay. But this is where you get the flash of Liev Schreiber in like the news, clipping about being framed for Sydney's mom's. Well, we end up actually finding framed, but for being taken the one for the kill, and it's just like, oh, wow, he's very young in this.
Yeah, we get a little exposition with the Cotton Weary news segment for sure. And we also find out at this point that Billy was released, because Dewey comes down and I think he just gives Sid a donut. And he says Billy's cellular bill was clean, so they had to let him go. But they are, any calls to Sid and Casey are being cross-referenced. So it's the little, nod to the police work that's being done. Dewey brings Sid to school, and then Linda Blair runs up again and starts fucking questioning her right out of the fucking cop car. She's fucking in her face.
Right.
Sydney ends up talking to Gail off camera. And Gail mentions it was the hottest fucking news story of the year. Somebody had to write a book about it. And she was like, yeah, it's fucking had to be you with your lies and bullshit theories. Sure. But Gail, the important part to take away from this is she thinks Cotton is innocent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
She is on top of the story.
This is the first time I think the audience starts to realize, okay, she's not just a tabloid journalist. Like, she is actually thinking about this case.
Mm-hmm. But she mentions that his story hasn't changed through any of this. He admits to having sex with your mother. Yes, he was drunk. He left his coat at Sydney's house, and she saw someone leave in his coat, not necessarily him. So she is, insisting all that. Sydney does apologize in this moment. She goes, sorry, I mangled your face.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's kind of a backhanded apology.
But Gail gets all excited. She turns to Kenny and she's like, do you know what this could do for my book sales? You fucking heartless asshole.
So, yep, that shows you where Gail is.
My next note on here is, why the fuck is Tatum allowed to wear this at school?
Dude, right? All of the outfits by most of the girls that aren't Sydney are just these skimpy ass outfits. And I'm like, I remember fucking a girl would show a piece of shoulder at school and fucking principal is right on, go home and change. You gotta be, and these fucking girls are walking around in tube tops and everything.
Dude,
ain't no way.
Her fucking midriff is entirely exposed, and
the entire
what's on
movie
top of it is just a tight ass jersey.
Yeah.
And that don't make no sense.
That don't make no sense.
For the sake of horror movies, boys.
I mean, I guess. We get the little Ghostface prank in the hall at this point, and Stu says it's like Christmas.
Right.
Sydney, of course, runs into Billy. She still thinks that it was him.
And he's all pissed off about it. He's like, you still think it's me?
Mm-hmm. But yeah, Billy's here looking greasier than ever and mentions, oh, it couldn't have been me. I was in jail, remember? She mentions that. She got a call from the killer. Therefore, it couldn't have been him. He was in jail, and he holds up his fingers with the ink stains on them.
Right.
He mentions to her at this point, I think it's time you got over your mom dying because I want my girlfriend back.
And it's like,
whoa,
bro, ain't no way you are sitting here saying that if you cared about this girl at all, you certainly aren't showing it, because I don't think less than a year, because she corrects him. She's like, it'll be a year tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, she mentioned, like, sorry if my traumatized life is inconvenient for you, you fuck.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and then we get a goofy shot of Billy after she walks away because he, like, smacks his hands on his face and he's like, oh, stupid. Why did I say that?
Yeah, he wouldn't.
Why indeed? But are we supposed to, like, after we've seen this movie once and then look back retrospectively at it, is it like he's calling himself stupid for
Bringing shit up
that maybe was better left alone so that she doesn't suspect him, kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Okay. This is where we get Hembry waving fucking scissors around in kids' faces. He expels the 2 kids that pulled the prank in the hallway. And they're like, well, this isn't fair. He's like, you know what, motherfucker? You're right. It isn't fair. Fair would be stringing you from a fucking tree.
Yeah.
Like, damn.
Lost
you
it.
go, Fonz.
Well, and Sydney's in the... Is this when Sydney's in there with him, too?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so I missed her. So when she's being, like, questioned with the cops earlier...
Yeah.
And Hembry's in there with it. Henry Winkler does this weird, like, chin grab for her. He goes to comfort her and he grabs her by the chin, and I just wrote down, I was like, why the fuck is he grabbing her chin?
I think that at the bottom line of this character, he does have a strong moral compass, which is why he is reacting so vehemently to these kids.
Yeah, I don't think he's a creep at all. I think it was just a weird thing that he decided to do.
It was definitely a weird thing to do, though. So Sydney ends up going to the bathroom, and there's girls in there talking shit about her, like, ooh, maybe Sydney did it. Maybe she's a slut like her mom. And you eventually realize that homicide is a healthier therapeutic expression than suicide. And she says something about, oh, yeah, I got it from Ricky Lake.
Showing the age of the films, man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, for sure. So in the bathroom, Sydney, Jesus Christ. Sydney suddenly senses. Jeez, why did I write that fucking line? Sydney suddenly senses. Sydney suddenly senses. Sydney suddenly senses.
Might as well start over.
And then the next one starts with S too. Sydney suddenly senses someone in the room with her after the girls leave, and she hears her name whispered as well. Which is where we see Boots step down from the toilet, and then we got a bathroom fight. She ends up running to the hallway, and Ghostface stays in the bathroom. I don't know why you choose not to say anything to anybody. Like, there's a murderer in there.
Literally, that's what I said.
Yep.
You know, we're talking about, little things that happen in the movie.
Yeah, we got him cornered.
Because he couldn't have came out of the fucking air vent.
Well, she runs into Wes Craven, the janitor. Why doesn't she say, hey?
Could have easily. Hey, guess what? Hey, it's over. The killer's in the fucking bathroom. That's it. It's over. There's nowhere for him to go, But we would like to keep watching this movie, so that does not happen.
That's fair. Ghostface, the mask that he was using is being reported on another news segment while Gail ends up flirting with Dewey. She's like, oh, my demographic is males between 18 and 24, I think she says.
Yeah.
Yep.
And she was like, oh, no, you're 25. I just missed you. She compliments him. She's like, does the Force require you to work out? Or are you just naturally buff or what? And he's like, well...
He's not ripped at all.
No.
Yeah, right. He's like the skinniest police officer you've ever seen.
Right. He was like, well, because of my boyish good looks, muscle mass has increased my acceptance as a cop. Hembry ends up canceling school until further notice, and there's a citywide curfew starting at 9. Gail and Dewey have a conversation quickly about whether or not this is a serial killer, and Dewey's like, well, you got to knock off a couple more before that happens, and Gail is into it, dude. She's like, all right, let's fucking do it. Like, who else can we lose? Dewey mentions, you're much prettier in person, and he was like, says something about like, yeah, I'm 25, but I was 24 for a whole year.
She says, so you do watch? And he's like, I might be 25, but I was 24 for a whole year.
Right. So we cut back to the Chillins, and an impromptu party at Stu's house is announced, and Matthew Lillard is a fucking lunatic.
Just
dude.
kills it.
This entire
Every
movie.
scene he's in, just chews it up, man. I wrote down, I want to meet Matthew Lillard so fucking bad.
Dude, I'm waiting for his name to pop up on a con. Himbry is back in his office trying on the Ghostface mask for some reason. There's a knock on his office door twice. And he goes out into the hallway and sees fucking Wes Craven in a cameo. But when he opens the door, he says something about, "Oh, you little shits." And Craven's like, "What'd you call me?" And he's fucking wearing a Freddy sweater.
Right.
Then he even calls him Fred, too. He's like, "Not you, Fred." But back in his office is where he gets got. Because he's looking in a bunch of places, but not behind his door, which is where Ghostface happens to be. He stabs the shit out of him, and then we see a really cool reflection of Ghostface mask in his eye.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good shot.
So it reminds me of the Texas Chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a big thing with Leatherface and her eyeball when she's in that locker, you know.
Totally. We get another needle drop of School's Out for the Summer. Was this the other one you were talking about?
It's got to be this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did catch it, turns out. Tatum and Sid start talking about Sid's mom's case, right? And Tatum's basically like, well, what if Cotton is telling the truth? Like, you can't prove a rumor. That's why it's a rumor. But conversation ends up getting around to Tatum saying, well, listen, you can only hear that Richard Gere gerbil story so many times before you have to start believing it. But she's trying to get her to calm down. She's like, don't go there, Sid. You sound like a Wes Carpenter flick. Good one. We cut to the video store where apparently there's a run in the mass murder section lately. But Randy's riding a fucking cart and there's a customer that he damn near crashes into. And he's like, wash it, jerk. Like, how is this? Oh, you know what? Never mind. He has been fired twice.
Yep. Absolutely.
But also, shameless plug, they mentioned the girl is looking for the movie The Howling.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She walks up and she's like, hey, what's the werewolf movie with E.T.'s mom in it? Randy is standing over there talking to Stu, and he's like, oh man, that's in poor taste. Billy's standing in the horror section, killer printed all over his forehead. Basically saying like, I can see the writing on the wall. This is prom night revisited. There's always a bullshit reason to kill your girlfriend. But when he says that, there's a really funny shot of the lady standing behind him in the next aisle or whatever. He says there's always a reason to kill your girlfriend, and she looks up at him.
Mm-hmm.
And then
She just gives him that
he
weird
keeps talking, and she like starts looking around like, is anybody else here in there?
Yeah, yeah.
It's a crazy guy from the video store again.
Right. Randy says, well, maybe he did it because Sydney wouldn't have sex with him. Whatever. There's a formula. Everybody is a suspect. I'm telling you, the dad is a red herring. It's Billy. Which, of course, is the exact moment that he backs up into Billy, who then mentions, like, well, how do we know you're not the killer?
Well, at this point, he's called Stu out and Billy out for being the killer. He's called both of them out at different times. So
Yeah,
it's
because
like he's completely on the fucking nose.
Right. He does mention at some point, like he asks Stu if Sid would go out with him, and he fucking just laughs at him.
Do you think Sid would go out with me?
No, probably fucking not.
No, I don't.
No. He just laughs for a second, and then it seems like Randy's still waiting for a response. He's like, no. We get Red Right Hand again right here, and this is like the montage of the town shutting down, basically.
Right.
We have a quick little conversation about like, oh, if this was a movie, who would play you in it? Talking about Sid. And Dewey's like, oh, you strike me as a young Meg Ryan. And Sydney's like, with my luck, it'd be Tori Spelling.
Which is a nod to her not getting this part.
To Tori Spelling not getting the part?
Huh?
No shit.
Yeah,
That's kind
it's
of
a
a
big.
burn.
It's a couple things, and like I forget what the reasoning was, like, or if she was cast and then like she had to bop out or something. But they wrote in these jokes about Tori Spelling because of this whole like behind the scenes drama that happened.
So the line was there already, and it was supposed to be Tori Spelling saying, "Oh, with my luck, it would be Tori Spelling."
Mm-hmm.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah, I didn't follow that.
Got him. Sydney and Tatum are they in like a store ? Or something like that? Like a convenience store of some kind, maybe.
I think they're picking up they're picking up stuff for the party
Okay, that makes sense.
because Stu mentions that they need to bring something for the party, and so I think they were grabbing snacks for the party.
Sure. Okay. So Sydney mentions being sexually anorexic, and Tatum's like, Billy and his penis don't deserve you, which is entirely true. Yeah. The next scene is so fucking funny, and I love it so much. We get Sheriff what's his face and Dewey talking in this scene, right? The sheriff is smoking a cigarette, even though he quit however many years ago. But Dewey is like matching him like puff for puff by taking licks off of his ice cream cone.
Yep. Mhm. And the sheriff is blowing the smoke right in Dewey's face.
Yeah, but every time he takes a hit, Dewey's fucking licking that ice cream cone, matching him fucking note for note. But it's almost in unison, seriously. But they're talking about Sydney's dad being the phone that was actually used to make those calls to Casey Becker. They also mention that tomorrow is the anniversary of Sydney's mom's death.
Dewey mentions, well, could the phone have been cloned?
Right.
Yep.
But then it's a fun little spoof here, or a blooper, I suppose is the word I'm looking for. Dewey kind of fucks up putting his glasses on. I think he almost like stabs himself in the eye because he has to like do a double take and put his glasses on the right way. And it's like, I don't think it was intended, but it makes so much sense
because
for the character.
Dewey is just such a doofus, yeah.
But yeah, now it's fucking party time. We are finally in our last location here. The news van drives by on the way to the house, and Kenny fucking throws a chip bag out the window. Did you guys forget he was fat? Let's remind you.
Yeah, right. He's also a piece of shit because he litters. So
Right.
My very first thing was when she started fat shaming him early on. I know you're 50 pounds overweight, and I was kind of like, "Fucking where?"
Yeah.
like he's a heavy dude, but he's not like
He's
heavy,
not
heavy.
like-
yeah.
Well, he's got on clothes to where it's hiding anything. He looks like a pretty average guy, at least in 2024.
Right.
You
He
know what I'm
doesn't look
saying?
any different than me and Dusty. Okay.
He's not. He's not
an average American.
He's
in
not a
2021.
large guy, so that's kind of funny.
Sure.
You know, showing the age here.
But we finally get to Stu's house, and it's fucking sick. This house is
It is a
amazing.
rager, and it is a fucking sick house.
Yeah, absolutely. Dewey ends up running into Gail, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I just wanted to make sure I'm getting the story or whatever." He's like, "There's not much of a story here, just some kids drinking, and I'm totally not a cop or anything, so I shouldn't be moving in and making sure this isn't happening. What the fuck?"
He mentioned something to the kid too. When they walk in the house, Dewey goes, "Hey, aren't you underage?" "Nah, I'm just joshing. Have a good time."
Right.
I would say he's a cop, obviously, but his job right now isn't to catch anybody underage drinking. His
doing
job's to make
recon.
sure nobody dies.
Yeah.
Sure.
And his sister's there.
And it also offers a distraction to the kids, I guess, getting their mind off of what is going on by having a fun party, sure. But then you're also allowing underage people to consume alcohol and A, lower their inhibitions, and B, lower their faculties to react to things. So
There's just
Yeah.
a whole lot of things. I think
it's
maybe
a tough fence to straddle.
I got away with a lot of underage drinking, and it wasn't the
Oh,
90s.
sure. Oh, I know.
You know what I mean?
Right there with you, buddy.
Shit's tightened up a little bit. You know?
But fucking Dewey brings Gail to the party with him, and she of course fucking brings a camera in. And she's like, "All right," turns around to him, she's like, "All right," like as in let's go. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." He's just so awkward. Inside the party, Randy mentions, "Hey, he's taking votes on, are we watching Evil Dead or are we watching Hellraiser?" But then Sydney mentions like, "Hey, why is Jamie Lee Curtis in all these movies?" And Randy's answer is because she is the Scream Queen. Matthew Lillard mentions the chick from Top Stories here. Dewey tells Tatum, "She's with me."
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Which is the point that Gail puts the camera on the VCR. But importantly, we'll find out later that camera has a 30-second delay between what it's recording in the moment and what it's transmitting to the van outside.
Yeah.
So this is where Tatum goes out to the garage to get beer. She tries to walk back in and the door is locked, and then the lights go out. And then she opens up the garage door to get out that way, but it stops halfway up when she has already walked over to it because Ghostface, turns out, is standing there in his super sparkly robe.
I like it.
I like it too.
I do.
Yeah.
And I almost think that's almost kind of funny too, because of all the things that have been happening over the movie. Would you ever expect him to be like, okay, well, hey, garage door didn't open.
Right.
It's Ghostface over there with his finger on the button, you know? Like, if his mask wasn't on, he'd be smiling at you.
You ain't going nowhere.
But again, she fucking thinks it's Randy. Why do they always think it's Randy?
That's what I wrote down again. I said, again, is Randy just fucking playing stupid jokes on all his friends?
But she has a pretty cool reference here where she's like, all right, Randy, what is this? I'll spit on your garage.
Yeah.
She asks him, do you want to play Psycho Killer? And he nods. And her nipples certainly seem to want to because, Jesus Christ, these things are out of control right here.
Probably one of the best things about this movie, you know?
Jesus.
I mean, the story's great.
Sure.
Know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course. Of course.
It's a great story, you know?
She talks some shit about him wearing a ghost mask, and she's like, all right, cut, Casper. That's a wrap.
Ashley, if you're listening, Jason didn't mean it.
That's when he ends up cutting her arm. When she says cut, he cuts. This is the goofy-ass scene where it's allegedly Matthew Lillard doing this, or, you know, whatever stunt actor. She whacks him with the freezer door. Great move. She throws beer bottles at him, which are, like, comically exploding, I feel like.
Hell yeah.
It's like they had to, like, notch those beer bottles so they would shatter that bad.
Well, they're probably, I don't know, some...
Stunt bottles that are just,
right.
thin glass or something.
Sure. She ends up tripping him. Good move. She tries to crawl out through the garage, but because her boobs are too big, she can't fucking make it, apparently. That's the story I've heard anyway. I don't really understand, but...
I thought it was her shoulders, but I'm not going to argue.
No, she already got her shoulders
Oh, yeah,
through.
she does.
And that was going to be my next point. If you can get your shoulders through, get the fuck through the rest of that door. Like, I don't get it.
I thought she got caught with one arm out and one arm in. I thought she was...
That could be.
But it's hard to tell. You know?
That could be. I'll have to take another look. I don't know. So she's halfway through the door, though, and Ghostface pushes the button to raise the garage door again, and this must be the world's strongest fucking garage door motor, because ain't no way those things are lifting up a fucking person, right?
No, without crashing. No,
Absolutely not. But
thing is crashing right to the ground the second it starts to lift.
But it's so strong to not only lift her, but crushes her in the frame of the garage door.
But it's a fucking gnarly kill,
mean,
dude.
it is.
I love this kill.
Yeah, no, it was great.
And it's a
Unbelievable.
great reveal later, too, when Sydney sees her there.
Right.
Yeah. Billy shows up at the front door when everyone seems to be filing out for some reason. I didn't really get that.
So everybody's filing out because they heard that somebody was hung from the goalpost.
Is that where we're at right now, though? I think he got that. I thought he got that call after he gives the rules.
No. Wait, yeah, that's why they leave the room. Because that's why they stop watching the movie is, hey, Principal Himbry is hung from the goalposts.
Jesus Christ. At any rate, Billy shows up.
There are some people leaving at this point, and Billy shows up, and Stu's like, oh, you gonna apologize?
When he does, though, Randy runs up and he's like, hey, what's Leatherface doing here? And there's another meta reference where Stu says, as if, and he's like, oh, okay, Alicia, talking about the movie Clueless. Again, the camera's on a 30-second delay. Everybody remember that. Billy and Sid talk upstairs. They both mention, oh, I've been selfish, whatever. Sydney goes, enough is enough. I can't keep lying to myself about who my mom was, and I'm scared that I'm going to turn out like her, basically. So, like, does that mean, like, oh, I have to admit my mom was a slut. I don't want to turn out like her, so let's have sex?
Yes, because that's what happens.
I don't know, with all the red flags that are going on and the rocky relationship, why it seemed like that was the best time for that to happen.
I don't know. Other than being like...
Plays into what Billy was going for, though, you know?
Sure.
Like, I feel like this was planned.
Maybe that could, because they make because she doesn't hear them say anything about, like, well, there's always a motive to kill your girlfriend. She won't have sex with him, right? She doesn't hear that, right?
She's not there for that.
Okay, but like, you know, maybe it went through her head, like, well, you know, if he is the killer, maybe I should just sleep with him and that'll
That's what she mentions
stop.
about being sexually anorexic earlier to Tatum. She's like, oh yeah, maybe I should give it up. Like,
Yeah.
if your boyfriend,
No, you should
Why
fucking break up with your boyfriend, not compromise your morals.
right? Yeah. So Skeet ends up making another like Silence of the Lambs reference. And he mentions like, oh yeah, this is really all one great big movie, but you can't pick your genre. And then they do it.
Was he going to kill her here?
No.
You don't think so?
Maybe.
Because there's a close up of like his hands going like kind of around her throat, and then
Oh, well, I mean, see, when you have sex with someone, sometimes
I get that happens. I understand kinks here.
when a man and a woman love each other very much.
Oh fuck! I gotta have this talk again.
Well, apparently you didn't fucking get it the first time. So.
Listen.
Sydney mentions like, why can't I be in a Meg Ryan movie? ... Or even a good porno. The kids are all watching Halloween downstairs, of course, because what fucking other movie would they be watching? Randy mentioned something about, oh, we don't see Jamie Lee Curtis's boobs until Trading Places. She was always the virgin in these early horror movies. That's why she was able to outsmart the killer. But that trope is going to be proven wrong very shortly. But regardless of that, Randy gives the rules of horror, which are basically 3, sex equals death, number 1. Number 2, no alcohol or drugs. And number 3, never say I'll be right back. Now, this is a very skeletal list because I feel like there are a lot more than that. But these are the ones that are given in this movie. So, and then he just gets done saying, don't say I'll be right back. And Stu says it immediately, of course, going to get beer.
Makes the same motion he makes later.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Randy's like, all right, I'll see you in the kitchen with a knife, dumbass. I just told you not to say it. Gail and Kenny are watching the footage outside from the camera that she planted. And then Dewey knocks on the door of the van and tells Gail that somebody reported a car in the bushes, and he takes Gail to check it out, but he's like, hey, why don't we walk? I got this flashlight. He's like, I'm the deputy, ma'am. You'll be safe. You know, whatever. It's a cute little date they have. Mm. He looks up at the sky. He's like, hey, do you know what constellation that is? And she's like, no, what is it? And he's like, I don't fucking know. I just asked you.
That's why I asked you.
Stu mentions, as I think this is still before they get the call about Hembry, but it seems like people are like constantly leaving this party. I don't get what the fuck is going on. Maybe people are just like cycling in and out or something. But Stu says Tatum, because someone asks about like where she is. It's like, oh, she probably got pissed and bailed, whatever. We know better, obviously. Billy and Sid are upstairs doing the thing while the kids continue to watch Halloween. This is where PJ Souls is on the screen, and Randy points out, oh, this is where we get the obligatory tit shot. And at that same time upstairs, Neve Campbell's taking off her bra.
Right.
Then they get the call about Hembry being gutted and hung from the goalpost, which, of course, prompts all the kids to run out of the party so they can go see, like you do.
You gotta go see it before they tear it down, man.
Yeah, of course. You definitely want that image in your brain forever. Anyway.
People like Jason do.
Interesting.
Basically, everybody but Randy leaves. He stays to watch the movie. But remember that 30-second delay. The score really fucking ramps up here. It's super sweet. Dewey mentions outside to Gail that his real name is Dwight. Great. This is where she mentions her name sounds like a meteorologist. And then they almost get fucking run over by these kids going to check out Hembry. And then Dewey ends up on top of her, and then they kiss. And he's like, immediately he's like, I'm sorry. I'm on duty. Shut the fuck up.
Said no cop ever.
Right. And she mentions she sees the car in the bushes, and she's like, oh, is that what you're looking for? But he's still like zeroed in on her. He's like, my whole life, this is what I've been looking for.
Right.
She pushes his face to see Neil Prescott's car is the one in the bushes. But we cut back to Billy and Sid, who are now done doing the nasty. And she brings up to Billy in this moment, hey, who did you call with your phone call when you were in jail? He says he called his dad, but she already had the information that the sheriff had already called his dad. So
Right.
why would he call him?
Right.
He's like, you still think it was me? She's like, well, I was just saying, it's a pretty clever way to throw me off track if you're like using your one phone call to call me,
Right.
that kind of thing. But this is where Ghostface, in quotes, sneaks up behind Billy, and he gets, again in quotes, stabbed 4 times. But this is where we get the first of many throughout this franchise, the fucking classic knife wipe.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Which he also actually does that in Five Nights at Freddy's.
Does he really?
That's pretty cool, yeah.
Oh, cool.
But the chase is on. This fucking house is insane, like we mentioned earlier. There's like a circular situation upstairs where there's like a double staircase coming down into one, etc., etc. Sid loses him, but ends up in the attic, and then ends up. Does she just fall off, or does she end up getting pushed off by Ghostface?
She gets pushed.
Okay, into the boat down in the driveway,
Yep.
which
Yeah,
is
she's
where,
pushed.
yeah, she then sees Tatum hanging in the garage door, so she's started her final girl circuit, as they call it. I like this next scene because we got Jamie watching Jamie.
Oh, yeah.
They do the Halloween sting when Ghostface appears, but yeah, this whole time he's like, "Oh, Jamie Kennedy is going, Jamie, watch, don't go over there, Jamie, hey, me." Ghostface is about to kill him, but then gets distracted by Sydney screaming and goes off after his real prey, kind of a thing. She ends up running out and gets to Kenny in the van. They end up freaking out about Randy and the 30-second delay situation. But then Kenny like immediately gets his throat cut the second he tries to step out of the van. Sydney then crawls out the back of the van.
Clever to think about that. I mean, I wouldn't have fucking been like, oh yeah, there's got to be a hole here. Fucking crawl through.
Yeah, it was like a weird situation where it was where all the lines, a lot of the power light cables and stuff were ran through the van, so she crawled through this tiny little hole.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
Tinier than what Tatum crawled through.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So Dewey goes on like a sweep of the house. We get more Halloween stings, and then we also get the chase music from Halloween in the background. That dun, dun, dun,
Right.
dun. Yeah, it's so sweet. Gail runs out to get Kenny, but then she steps in his blood, and then she gets in the van anyway, because fuck it. Randy runs
She's like,
up.
I need to get the fuck out of here.
But this is where, like, she says something before she realizes Kenny is dead. She's like, I need to use the cellular. And when she gets into the van, she gets into the driver's seat, and then fucking Randy jump scares her. And then she fucking whacks his ass with this huge ass cell phone. This is like Zach Morris from fucking Saved by the Bell phone.
Lucky she didn't kill him.
Right. This is where she notices blood all over the windshield, and then after she starts going, Kenny's body fucking falls down the window.
She's just like, sorry, Kenny, but I need to get out.
Yeah. Well, she drives in a circle specifically to throw him off of the van.
Yep.
She's like, fuck you, dude. You're already dead. This is self-preservation. She almost hits Sydney. So, of course, she crashes the van immediately, as everyone always does. It's so annoying. Sid calls for Dewey, but when she does, he ends up stumbling out of the house with a knife in his back, which is when she goes to get in the cop car, but Ghostface has the key. She ends up finding out.
Which that is a crazy scene.
When he starts unlocking the doors at random.
Right.
It's so fucking cool.
We are before times of power locks here, at least for this vehicle.
Right.
So he's going door to door and sticking his hand up and opening it.
He's
and
basically rolling around this car.
Yeah, underneath the car and whatever. But so genius, though, because the first time that I saw this, I didn't even notice the back hatch open.
Oh, no.
No, unless you're looking for it, you barely
Because you're
see it
zeroed
open.
in on Sydney.
Yeah.
Right. And sure enough, that hatch opens and he comes through the back, and
Also,
got me.
I did want to mention the interior of this car looks eerily similar to the inside of the car Annie is killed in Halloween, so that's yet another reference.
Yeah.
Ghostface is playing with the locks. Sid uses the radio, but yeah, this is when we find out that Ghostface is inside the car. attacks her. She ends up rolling out and running back to the house, which Randy runs up at this point, and Sid grabs Dewey's gun and points it at him. And then Stu comes up, and they just fucking start accusing each other, like, oh, he's the bad guy. No, he's the bad guy. And she's like, fuck you both. Fucking closes the door on him. That's about the time Billy falls down the stairs. Sid helps him up, thinking he was just attacked by Ghostface. Of course he can't be. He then convinces her to give him the gun, of course.
And open the door, too.
Randy comes back in, and he says something about Stu's gone mad. And this is where, of course, we get Billy going, oh, we all go a little mad sometimes.
Right.
Another Psycho reference. And then he shoots Randy in the shoulder. And then mentions that all the stuff that looks like blood on him is actually corn syrup. Ooh, same stuff they used as pig's blood in Carrie.
Right.
So
this is where everything all unraveled in front of our eyes. Finally, we can all tell what's really happening, who did what, and why. And
the denouement of the movie. Stu ends up behind Sydney. She kind of backs up into him. He's got the voice changer. He's like, surprise, Sydney, whatever. Says, you look like you've seen a ghost, which is funny. They're like tossing the voice changer back and forth and shit. And he's like, oh yeah, we're going to play a game called Guess How I'm Going to Die. She's like, well, how about we play Fuck You instead? He was like, no, I already did that.
Yeah.
They mentioned that they framed Cotton Weary, and we get Matthew Lillard's great, it was fun.
Yeah.
She asks like why they killed her mother. And they're like, why? Ask why. Like, it's scarier when there's no motive. Like, your mom was just flashing her shit all over town like she was Sharon Stone. And let's face it, she wasn't.
She was no Sharon Stone.
But basically the moral of the story is Sid's mom fucked Billy's dad. She is the reason that his mom then abandoned him, and he blames her for everything.
She gets deep, man.
Yeah, and speaking of getting deep, the point is made at this point that Sydney is no longer a virgin. And now she's got to die, because those are the rules. He drops his fucking, it's a scream, baby, I'll be right back, he says again. They bring Sydney's dad out of the closet. They mention framing him. They start stabbing each other, which is fucking insane. Is this just to, like, have defensive wounds so that they can throw
Yeah,
the
they
cops
like
off?
explain that they're like, it's going to be easy to set your dad up for this. Oh, he just attacked us as we were trying to save you, and so that's when they start stabbing each other. And
so yeah, he caught a couple coming in,
Yeah, Billy stabs Stu first, and he's like, "Good one, man." Like, he's like, "My turn," and Billy instructs him. So I wonder if there have been incidents already, because Billy mentions to him like, "Stay to the side and don't go too deep." He's like, "Yeah, I know, I got it." Stu again mentioned something about like, oh, you got to have a sequel. Everybody dies but us. We've, gone through all kinds of work to make sure this is put together a certain way. Billy stabs Stu 3 more fucking times. And this is where we get his great line of don't blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative. And then we also get Matthew Lillard's great line of, I'm feeling woozy here.
Hello, woozy.
We realize at this point that the gun is missing, but we find out that Gail has it. And Billy says something about, I thought you said she was dead. And he was like, she looked dead, man. Still does, actually.
Right.
But Gail spells out a new ending for them of her making. But the safety apparently is on once again. But when they are focusing on Gail, Sydney then takes that cue to fucking scurry on out of there. And her dad is gone at this point too. So Stu is pretty fucked up from the stabs and, maybe whatever he's drank over the night.
Pretty useless. He's just kind of laying there,
Yeah. Sydney ends up calling them with the voice thing. And Stu thinks he's dying at this point. Billy gets all pissed off and fucking throws the phone directly at Stu's head. He's like, fucking hit me with the phone, dick! He goes, did you really call the police? Oh, my mom and dad are going to be so mad at me. Be so mad. Billy's fucking losing it in the background, meanwhile. He's like tearing up the fucking couch. There's feathers all over the place.
Yeah, he like
stabbing the cushion.
He stabs the pillow and the feathers go
He's
everywhere.
frustrated and everything isn't going to plan.
He's like, where are you, bitch?
Sydney jumps out of the closet at this point and ends up stabbing Billy with an umbrella, which apparently this was a situation where she missed the vest that she was supposed to stab and actually fucking stabbed Skeet Ulrich in the shoulder with an umbrella.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. But at this point, Billy's down, but Stu attacks again. Sid flips him over, but he ends up on top of her anyway. He's like, "Oh, I always had a thing for you, Sid." She bites him and then fucking smashes his head with a flower pot so she can get off, and then pushes the fucking TV on top of him. And he makes the saddest, like, death rattle noise. Sounds like an ROUS. The image on the screen at that point, I noticed, when it was falling at his face, was Jamie Lee Curtis finally gathering the fortitude to fight Michael back, kind of a thing. So that was cool. Randy has another fucking jump scare. He's just sneaking up on everybody in this fucking movie. Which is when, of course, Billy attacks again. And then Sid puts a finger in his fucking bullet hole.
Oh, man.
Hell
So brutal,
yeah,
right? She's
dude.
like, I'm fucking getting you, bro. Like,
God damn.
I wonder what that feels like.
I don't want to know. But Gail ends up shooting him again. She's like, "I remember the safety that time, dick." And then Randy, of course, drops his, "This is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back to life for one last scare." And then, of course, Sidney shoots him in the fucking head anyway.
well, he does because he jumps.
Yeah.
He's like, it's just a bang.
Yeah, he does.
Fucking
Yeah,
done.
right. Sydney's dad falls out of the closet again, and she's like, "Oh, fuck, I forgot."
Sorry, Dad.
They end up carting Dewey out of the house, and he gives a little thumbs up before he goes into the ambulance. And then Gail starts one last report. And the fucking camera is panning out from Stu's house, and it's fucking awesome. The last line in the movie is Gail saying, "This is my big shot. Let's go." So we get one little Ghostface flash after it cuts out, but then fucking fini, the end. We've reached the end of another fucking extremely, extremely good movie.
This has got to be one of the best by far in all of the genre. And it's not because of the kills. It's not the goofy acting. It's not the tits. It's literally...
It's always the tits,
I
Jason.
think, like you said earlier, it comes down to Randy. Nev is important. The killers are important. But Randy's character changed horror.
He is the reason that, the tone of pretty much everything after this shifted in a certain way.
Right.
Because he is predicting everything. And so, like, there was, like, the industry being like, fuck, everybody's starting to get these now.
Yeah,
like,
right.
they're following a formula at this point. We got to change it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I mean, son of a bitch, this is just one of the all-time greats. It's such a good concept. It really set the meta subgenre on fire, really. Like, this was really the first of its kind, and revitalized slashers at the same time, because that was dead at this point.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great pacing, great acting. This movie is just fucking fantastic.
Holds up incredibly well with, modern horror completely.
Yeah, there's nothing that you can rag on this movie about, man.
No.
I feel like everything kind of came from here.
Yeah.
You know, people are still taking notes from this for movies releasing now. You
Yeah.
know, I think, honestly, and you ain't going to hear this often out of me, this is a 5 out of 5 for me. This
Yeah?
movie is perfect. I don't think there's anything that should be adjusted at all. I wouldn't change anything.
I'm with Jason on this. 5 out of 5 for me.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, I really thought about it last night, and I thought the same thing. There's not a fucking thing you could change. It moves at a breakneck pace. The soundtrack's great. The kills are great.
Yeah.
Like, what it did for horror is fucking sick. Like, this
Yeah.
movie's amazing.
Yeah, I gave this one 68 out of 34 burning pans of popcorn. Now, I know that sounds goofy, but I did this, and I did this on this episode in particular specifically because I need everybody to know that these number ratings we give don't really fucking mean anything.
Yeah.
This is our subjective scales on things, and not everyone's is going to be the same. Don't take too much stock in these numbers we're throwing out. This is what we think. But
Eventually, we're going to hate a movie that you love, and that doesn't fucking matter. We're just
No.
3 dudes sitting around talking horror.
we are here to celebrate the horror genre, period. So yeah, but I mean, this is a 200% fucking banger. My recommendation on this is if you don't already own this movie, watch it regularly and sing its praises. Fucking lose my number.
Yeah, fucking seriously. If you're not watching this at least a couple times a year, like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's just incredible.
I don't know if anybody felt the same way I did about Nev Campbell growing up, but
probably.
you need to absolutely watch Wild Things.
Oh, I see. Is that the one with Janisa Richards and Matt Dillon, I think?
Yes.
Okay.
If you're into Nev in this movie, you absolutely need to watch this, and that's where we should leave it.
Okay. Well, you heard it here, folks.
Check that movie out, guys. Jason's got the scoop.
But anyway, back to Scream. Yeah, fucking amazing movie. Glad we got a chance to talk about it. Glad you all got a chance to listen. We hope you guys had a great time. I think we're going to wrap it up about there. As always, you can reach us at cinebytespod@gmail.com. You can follow our socials at Cinebytespod on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram's the other one that I always end up fucking up. We do have a YouTube going, and if you feel so inclined to support the show, you can do so at cinebytes.buzzsprout.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you on the flip side. As always, dreams are fleeting, only nightmares last forever. Follow your nightmares.
I bid you welcome.